I'm going to call to order the Town of Swanton Selectboard meeting for June 17th, 2025 at 6:01. Everybody would please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agenda review. We'll start with Christina.
You will see I gave you proposed, I would like to add proposed Swanton zoning plan fee schedule. It's just a little discussion.
Under Newtown Business.
Yes.
Okay. Kathy,
I'm good, thank you.
Nicole,
I'm all set.
Earl.
Just what we were just talking about in the park, because that question has come up to me a couple of times. Maybe you could, Brian, give us an update of what's going on.
Okay, Swan Pond. Okay. I would like to move, if everybody's comfortable with it, a discussion with A.N. Peisch, right up after public comment, and then, Mr. John Kozowski, Cemetery Commission. Seeing they're in the crowd here tonight, instead of going through the other business, everybody's good with that?
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Nick, anything?
Nope.
Just one question, I think on the agenda. Under Chris Goulet, we're talking about A.N. Peisch Town Audit of 2023. I think it was 2022.
No,
also.
it's 23.
We didn't, why did you ask the questions on the 2022?
Why did what?
We sent in information on the audit of 2022,
The one we received was the audit of 2023.
but we had the 2022 also.
Yeah, we talked about that a year ago. I thought the plan tonight was these got passed out the other day, and that's what we were talking about.
I'll look into it. I sent a bunch of questions on the 2022.
I didn't even look. I know that we were talking tonight. I knew you had some questions. I didn't check to see what year or.
Yeah, okay, well, I had to set for 2022 and 2023, two separate sets.
Okay,
Okay, well, we'll work on the 2023 and talk about the other one some other time.
okay. All right, Ryan, do you have anything?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. I'd like to, I'm looking for authorization to hire an attorney to do title work and legal work for the FEMA buyouts, and I guess that would.
Newtown Business?
Newtown Business.
Or actually Old Town Business?
Well, it is
FEMA
all
buyouts
it's been
is
cooking
all-
around for a couple of years, but
Yeah.
we're to the point where we need an attorney. Also, I did receive a bid for the painting that we can open later in this meeting for the painting of the town offices. And I did receive, and though it's very late, but a bid for the dump truck.
Okay. Only one, well, we'll talk
Just
about the painting when we get
Yeah.
to that.
Mhm.
Both of those
Yep.
will be going to Newtown Business.
Right, and then also, under Newtown Businesses, and I prepared an RFP for a 4x4 truck chassis. If you want the board to review that.
Yeah.
Get that ready to go.
Okay. Minutes. Regular select board meeting of June 3,
So moved.
2025, entertain a motion to approve. Steve, that's to approve.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Motion been made, seconded, and approved. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay, public comment for anything that is not on the agenda. Do we have anybody on the screen? Doesn't
No.
look like it. Okay. And then we will move right ahead and invite Chris up to the table, if you would.
Everybody, Chris Gillette, partner in charge of Swanton, Vermont audit engagement. We're finally getting caught up on the town's engagements, and hopefully we'll get the 2024 in process. I've been emailing with Kathy and got one more thing to address for 2023, so I should get the journal entries in, and the plan is to get it, all the work done in July. Have a draft out by the end of July
For the 2024?
for 2024.
Okay.
What would you like me to go over as far as the financial statements?
Well, I guess first, just kind of an overview,
Okay, so if you look at the one that says financial statements on it,
okay? That's the big one.
yeah, so basically look on the first page where it says independent auditor's report. Basically gives you the opinion first, which we gave it a clean opinion based on the modified cash basis of accounting, which is what we're using to present in the report. It's pretty much cash basis with just some like small liability accounts, right, payroll liabilities. And that's compared to if it was modified accrual, you'd include grant receivables, your property tax, delinquent property tax receivables would be included in your accounts payable. And notes payable would be all included in your financial statements. But with the cash basis, you're basically just reporting the cash and your fund balance accounts and all your funds.
Okay,
And on page 4, this is part of the GASB, Government Accounting Standing Board's Statement 34 statements, the government activities, but in a cash basis or modified cash basis report, there's no difference between the statement of net position and the balance sheet, because it's all cash basis. If it was using the modified accrual GAAP basis report, this would be a different reporting. It would include your pension liabilities that you have, and all your notes payable balances, and grant receivables, and a lot of more stuff that's involved, which I spoke to Brian about as far as when you did the request for a proposal for 2024, you said it was gonna be GAAP basis, but GAAP basis would be significant additional work.
yeah, and I thought I saw where you had to take into account all your equipment and
Yeah,
stuff, the
your
value of the
property, your
equipment and
fixed
that.
assets and the depreciation, so you'd have to do a whole inventory of all your town's equipment, plus the value of the roads and infrastructure, everything, so it's a pretty big undertaking in order to do it.
We're required to have that done?
The only requirement is technically if the federal government was to give you federal funds in excess of $750,000, they could possibly deny it if you don't have GAAP basis statements, but I've never seen that happen. If they said they want GAAP basis statements, then at that point in time, you probably would have to do it if there are federal funds were involved, and that $750,000 is now going up to $1 million now.
So there's some good chance that we probably.
You've received plenty of federal funds
Yeah.
Right.
since then, so
Yeah, it just seems like another level for not necessarily a lot of gain to it.
we still have a lot of small towns that just do the modified cash basis or cash basis because they don't want to pay the $40,000 to $50,000 to do a GAAP basis statement, it's really not.
Would that change what our town clerk does now with her system, or?
She'd have to do a lot more, it'd be a lot more
Yeah, I
involved.
talked to Nemrick about it too, and they
Yeah.
said that was their big thing, which was, why are you doing it, no other towns want to do it, it's
Yeah.
not feasible.
Yeah.
It'd be a major overhaul to everything that we have here.
Yeah.
So basically, the statement of position tells you your cash, with all your funds, you have $2,871,469 in cash, of which $1,081,000 is in the American Rescue Plan Act, which we've already
Yeah,
identified where that money's gonna be going anyways. And then we got a small amount in the library, then highway garage, equipment, road improvements, mapping, revolving loan, that's actually, you paid that back to the state.
not yet, we are though.
You're in the process of
Yeah, probably next week.
Okay.
They finally told us where they want us.
They finally contacted us.
That's that one we decided months ago that we
Yeah,
weren't
we're
gonna.
gonna send it back.
Okay.
They finally called us, well, emailed Brian last week and said, this is where you need to send it.
So on page 5, the GASB 34 statement of activity, they kind of do it backwards. It shows the expenses, then it shows expenses by cost center, general government, highway, public safety, recreation, ARPA, library and debt service, what your expenses were, and then what fees or grants that you had that pertain to that cost center. And then basically your property tax is paid for the remainder of it. So basically it's saying general government, you had 1,231,691 in expenses. Charges for services were 131,668. You had grants of 119,204, so you basically had to come up with 980,819 from property taxes to pay for general government.
One question about the GASB. Is there any movement in the state to make that a requirement for towns that you've heard of?
Not that I've heard of, not for the, you know, and I think they realize the small towns, I mean, the same thing they do for, the county courts and the sheriffs. They realize it's a big undertaking, and in the small towns, it's a pretty big expense. I haven't seen where they're making a requirement for the small towns.
Okay.
So then basically you have your basic governmental financial statements are on pages 6 through 12, basically. So you have your balance sheet on the modified cash basis. And we're required to report what they consider major funds detail on this statement, and then all the non-major is consolidated after the footnotes into a total column. So basically, the major fund is based on a percentage of the revenue compared to the overall revenue. They get considered a major fund, and your major funds are, the general fund will always be a major, and then you have the public works as a major fund, economic development fund, ARPA, and the library fund end up being major funds. And everything else is considered non-major, so that's just combined in one statement at the end. And so then you got your, on page 7 is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And this addresses all where your revenues came from, and then divides the expenditures. We break down the general government to be the select board, general benefits, town clerk's office, listers, and zoning and planning. And then the only one that we have operating transfers in and out is between the general fund and the recreation fund. They have the appropriate, or the approved at the town meeting amount to be given to the recreation fund, so I treat it as an operating transfer. On page 8 is the summarized budget versus actual for the general fund. You can see where most of it's pretty reasonable as far as the variances, and the revenues were pretty close to anticipated for property taxes and licenses, permits, and fees. Intergovernmental, it's not budgeted, so whatever state grants or other grants you get, it's shown, you don't have a budgeted revenue, but we show it as the actual revenue in there. And then the budget versus actual expenditures are pretty reasonable, other than zoning and planning was over by $20,000. I guess I'd have to look. In the- in the-
2023.
Yeah, so,
Probably legal.
Yeah, the listers.
Zoning and planning.
Zoning.
okay, so if you go on page 31, it has a detailed budget versus actual statement.
Oh.
And so most of it was the town plan expense, and then
Yeah.
there's land use and development regulations that they had.
Those are some of the contracts or whatever they did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
contracts. And one of them was we were supposed to, how did that work? I went over because originally I think we were going to,
Their grant.
there was a grant they got, but we couldn't get, because we paid him before we got the grant. We were when Amy came to the select board, she was applying for a grant to pay to that to be done, but because we paid for it before we got the grant wouldn't pay for it.
Okay.
Okay, and then we have a budget versus actual for the Public Works Fund. And this is where, when I was doing this final budget to actual report, I was trying to determine what the budgeted property taxes were. I was coming up with a total, and it was $155,000 less than what was in the actual. That's when I determined that too much had been transferred over to the highway, to the Public Works Fund. They basically transferred over what the overall budget was.
Did the money go
The
back?
1,905,765, so I made a journal
adjusted it
entry
back.
to put it into due from
Yep.
and reduce the property taxes accordingly, so that it
Yeah.
agreed on the report that I submitted. And I talked to Kathy about what she can do to
Yeah.
fix that going forward, just because typically she's not, the budgeted revenue isn't put in the NEMR system, just so I'll show her how to put that budgeted revenue in, that way you can tell that, especially in the public works, that should agree.
Yeah.
And then with you doing the library now, that's an approved budget. I have to add the budget versus actual report for the library in this statement. And the fiduciary funds, on page 11, the private purpose trust, those are just the cemetery funds. And there's not a lot of activity in those right now. If you see on page 12, we just had interest income and no activity. But because this is cash basis, a lot of the activity is reported in January of the following year. So I think if she could try to get everything done in December of the year, it could be reported on the. Then the custodial fund, we're required to report now. Basically, we don't show it in property tax revenue anymore. It's considered for the school districts. Is basically you're collecting it on behalf of the school district and just pay it over to the school district, so it's considered custodial funds. So I guess that's the taxes collected and distributed to the school. And page 13 to page 27 are footnote disclosures. Basically, it's a
Oh,
summary.
wait a minute, I just want to ask you a question back on that other fund. You mean we make that interest money because off that custodial fund? Where does that interest money go?
No, the interest is on the cemetery trust funds.
Oh, okay. No, I got it on the page, yeah.
And then on the notes, we have just, note one is basically a summary of significant accounting policies. And it indicates the different presentations. We have government-wide financial statements, where the first two financial statements are considered government-wide. Then you have fund financial statements, where the ones, the 6 financial statements after the government-wide were fund financial statements. And I discuss under governmental funds, the ones that are considered major, and the reason why they're major. And then the basis of accounting is the modified cash basis of accounting. Which basically is when cash is received and when cash is paid, and that's in smaller towns, or that's basically a lot easier to understand than the modified accrual, where you got property taxes receivable of $350,000. When we do testing for it, we also have to test for 60 days after year end, and I think collected 60 days after year end is considered income in the previous year. So there's a lot more involved in an audit of the GAAP basis statements, a lot more testing to be done. And then we disclose accrued compensated absences. We disclose it, we don't report on it, you know, if it was modified accrual basis, we would report the compensated absences as an liability and an expense. And we adjust it every year.
So on these notes, is there any significant one that jumps out that we need to be aware of and put special attention to? I know Steve's got a series of questions, but he said page 13 through 27 are just notes explaining
Yeah, they're just.
where the numbers came, right?
Right, and we do disclose in the footnotes, like your long-term debt, even though it's not in your financial statements, but we do disclose what your outstanding debt is. We only have the one note outstanding.
For the Gerard.
Yeah, and you know, 280,377, and on page
Yeah.
21, we show the principal and interest to maturity. We do 5 years and then 5-year increments until it's paid off, we show. So basically what your liability is over the next 5 years, and then 5 years after that.
That's not very much, is it?
For a town, that's really good, because that's significantly higher in a lot of other towns I do. And this one page footnote is 4 or 5 pages in some towns. That's how many loans they have outstanding, so. And then note 8 is municipal employees retirement system. We add this in, technically with modified cash basis, we don't need to report this whole amount, but we put it in there because it's just a standard footnote disclosure, and it's telling you that according to the state, the pension liability for the town of Swan is $512,576.
That's our liability.
It could be if they don't, if the,
The state program,
you know, if it goes, investment values get worse and worse, it could go, but it's all based on estimates anyways. You'll see where on page 25, they show if it was 1% lower the discount rate, the liability would be $771,000. If it was 1% higher, it would be $299. So it's all based on estimates.
What happens with all the money that the town put in on behalf of the employees and what they put into that retirement fund?
It gets invested.
Yeah, but if the town is liable for this, can we deduct that off of it? You know, if we've already contributed a certain amount.
There's a couple other amounts out there that we don't disclose on because it's cash basis, but there's deferred outflows as part of the equation, and there's deferred inflows as part of the equation. And we don't report on that in here.
The liability piece is if the state retirement system fails, right?
Fails, and
I mean, right now, people are retired and they're getting paid
Yeah,
through
it's-
the state and that sort of thing. So this number here, as large as it is just telling us,
It's just a potential that, you know, if the system fails, then you could be on the hook for that amount of money.
to the employees,
I
to,
guess I have to assume that if the state failed, we failed too, so. You know, we're on our own.
And that's basically the only really detailed one in the footnotes. And then after that, we just have the detail budget versus actual, which is pretty much published in the town report. And we did that for the general fund, the public works, and the library fund. And then the only two other funds are there's a planning zoning mapping fund and a recreation fund. The other two are considered non-major. Any other questions on the financial statements?
and consider non-major because the percentage of the overall budget, you said, is that, how that's figured, okay. I think Steve's got some.
Yeah, did they send these to you, Chris, ahead of time? There was an email that I sent in on February 10th.
I never saw anything.
I thought we had sent them
What was the question?
Well, it was,
on or about February, you got them, you sent them.
yeah, I
You got
looked,
'em.
I looked this
I got 'em
over,
in February.
and I had some questions, and it was dated February 10th, 2025, and it was in reference to the 2023 audit. And then I had another bunch that I'd sent out in regards to the 2022, and I had hoped that, I think I'd asked that they had send these to you ahead of time, so you'd have a chance to look them over and give us your thoughts.
Well, go ahead and ask them, that's what we're doing,
But I think there's another issue, they didn't get them.
okay? That I don't know, I'll have to go back and look at that email. I'm not the CEO.
Track that down.
What's that?
We'll have to track it down.
Okay, I'll just ask a few questions. I'm disappointed this didn't get to you ahead of time, but we could have zipped right through these things and- rather than take another hour or so. I guess one of the questions, are any new pronouncements forthcoming that we should be aware of?
Nothing. We put on, it's on page 19. There are certain schools related to debt, including direct borrowing and direct placements and deferred compensation plans. That's not, if you're modified cash basis, they're not gonna pertain to the town at all.
On the letter of 10/17/24, I question, what were the several matters that are opportunities, et cetera, that you mentioned? Were any of these taken and implemented, and what would be the status? And then there's more reference to these. I think you had made some recommendations for whatever, it could have been internal controls or our own accounting. I'm just curious what those were and had they been implemented, or just decided we weren't gonna do it.
Well, one of them in the additional required report, we indicate that technically the financial statements are supposed to be prepared by the town and we're just reporting on them. But they're saying that, they've told us that they're not gonna do it, they're gonna rely on the auditors to do it, but because of that, we need to show it as a material weakness.
As a material
As
weakness.
a current material weakness that, you know, it's not cost beneficial for them to
Good.
do it on their
Are you gonna mention that every year?
We will,
Okay. Right.
until unless they,
And when you say they,
well, maybe,
and I
there's
read
probably
that,
99% of the towns do not do this, only big cities. Because a lot of the bigger cities or bigger towns will hire another outside CPA firm to do the accounting assistance and prepare the financials for them.
Right,
And then the audit firm would come in and audit the numbers. But in a small town, we realize that's not gonna happen, and that's why in our management representation letter, I don't know, you're basically signing it saying that either Brian or Kathy or both are representing that you're understanding the financial statements and that you're taking responsibility on those financial statements, and that we're not making any management decisions because that would make us not independent.
right.
So basically, by doing that, that's why we'll send you the financial statements to review, and if you have questions on it, at least we know that it's being reviewed, and we will discuss, what if we do have any issues. I emailed Brian on the property tax transfer issue and stuff like that.
Okay. We have a risk management program. I think one was developed, and I think when I read that, it has to be reviewed periodically. Do you know if that's been done? I looked at it, I thought it was pretty good, but I didn't know if we have to ascertain that it's been looked at or reviewed, or you've looked at it.
We reviewed it, and if there's no changes to it, then I'm not gonna review it.
Okay. Do we have
Again.
to certify though as a board that we've reviewed? The risk management's a big issue right now. Do we have to certify as a board that that we've reviewed this, or we're okay with it?
As far as risk management, you approve it. I would say if you have any changes to it, you review it, but I don't.
Sounds like you're not aware of any state statute that says the select board will review annually the risk management plan. That's what I'm kind of hearing. We could put it on our own schedule to do it annually and take a look and see if we know of any changes, and then certainly ask our auditors to see if it makes
Yep.
sense, what's written in there.
Every once in a while you read about some big fraud case.
And with everything going on with AI now, there's probably gonna be changes to the.
Yeah, it'd be good town policy to have that review every year and, find a way of getting those questions to you before you do your presentation, so.
Okay.
Well, when you get the stuff for the 2024, Kathy's gonna compile it and send it, I'll send you the present policy for everything.
Yeah.
And
And any,
look at it.
we do request if there's any new
Yeah.
policies in the, so
Mhm.
probably, and we also read all the minutes, and we try to highlight if there's anything
Like-
that's been approved in the minutes. I'll say, well, did you guys get a copy of this?
We are doing a change to the purchasing policy, which will be hopefully signed tonight, and so that one will go out.
Okay.
Okay, you had mentioned some funds were not included, or maybe you didn't know they were there. I guess my question is, what were those funds and have they been addressed?
It's mostly the cemetery trust funds.
Mhm.
They just need to be, added and the activity reported within the NEMRIC system. And it's not a lot of activity, so it probably wouldn't be that difficult to do, but add it to the NEMRIC trial balances and report the activity within the.
Were there any other funds?
The only other one that's kind of confusing is the recreation fund, because the recreation, they use NEMRIC, but the payroll is done on the town side, right? So,
The payroll is done after the fact, but effective January this year, payroll is done live for them.
so it's all in one system then?
To a certain degree.
Okay, so that's the one that that's in the management letter comments, that's the one where
Right.
I said it's confusing, and then
It's
there's
confusing.
a couple of payroll accounts and liability accounts that aren't being accounted for properly. We make the adjustment
Right, because
after the fact for it.
they're not live for me.
So it's, if they just had it all in one set of
Yeah.
trial balance, it'd be a lot easier. And they probably wouldn't, then I can just show Kathy what to do with the liability accounts, because
The-
I
Well,
think,
the problem with, we're not live with Fund 3 on our system.
Right.
It's like a fake system, I shouldn't say fake. We do,
Dormant.
we do their payroll after the fact, so all the payroll expenses was going through the rec department. And basically what I was doing was I would do an after the fact payroll and post the payroll after it was done. And then they would send me a check to reimburse me for the taxes and the, Vermont Department of Labor and the VEMR's. Cause we pay it because when it was set up, it was the fact that we would do the W-2s. And the only way we could do the W-2s is if we do the payroll. The only way we could do the payroll at that time was after the fact payroll. So that's the approach, Joel, at the end of the year, correct? That's it, to see if I could actually do the payroll. So I'm actually doing the payroll, but it's kind of like the after the fact payroll in reverse. I'm doing it, posting it, and they're reimbursing me for all the expenses.
Including the salary?
Mm-hmm.
but still,
So it's actually in the actual accounted for the payroll and the expenses. It's still their liability and expense in their ledger.
okay, so I'll have to look at it and see how it's,
Okay.
see if it's,
Okay, we can talk about that.
right, 'cause that's the one that is pretty confusing when it's coming from two sources and
Yeah.
trying to figure out.
Yeah, but
I can really.
there's nothing there that would be of concern, it's just the way it's
No.
set up right now makes it more difficult.
Because it is cash based, as long as
Yeah.
the cash is accurate and we adjusted the payroll liabilities to what they were and then.
One of the, with the rec, that may also be confusing, and we talked about it, here's the special funds, stuff they received that's earmarked that isn't necessarily an appropriation from the town.
Right,
Does that get confusing in how we use our system of
No,
accounting?
because they get we send the, rec department sends in their trial balance
Right.
and their accounts and everything for them to review as well.
So
Okay,
the-
so
We
you've
get-
seen that and it's
yeah.
all accounted for?
yeah,
The one thing is the board, we haven't seen after the first quarter, is we're still waiting for the special funds report. So if you're seeing it all on the ledgers, then we need to clean that up and get it to the board.
That's that reconciliation I've been harping about,
Yes,
so we
yeah.
know what's there.
And we need to see that. We were
Absolutely.
told after the last briefing of the quarterly that we were gonna get it, so hopefully in the next couple meetings here, we see that.
Yeah, I
Special
just sent you a
funds are-
memo on that, so,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
And I just want to add on to that, I imagine you were seeing similar issues in regards to the library, because I see, we noted that the payroll liability entries.
It was, yeah, the payroll liabilities and employee benefits, some of the employee benefits aren't being,
What happened was I talked to Nemrick about it because I kinda caught it at the end of the year when I was doing stuff, and I contacted Nemrick, and there were a couple liabilities that were hitting the wrong liability. It was the same liability, but in different fund. So we made the adjustments to make it go where it's supposed to go.
So that won't show up this year then.
I hope not. No.
Did you have the rec committee's reserve fund when you looked at the aggregation of all of the town's monies?
I did, I had, I
Okay,
Yeah.
had Arkansas.
that fell into the, okay, I didn't see it in there, but I could have missed it. We took out a loan that it was not approved by the board, a small amount of money, really immaterial, were you aware of that?
No, it wasn't in 2023.
That's right, sorry, okay, well, that's been
So that's
paid,
one to look forward to. 2024.
I got my years mixed, that's been paid, as I assumed, so.
Thought you were in trouble.
And I think that was the main questions that I had. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, just one other. We are a really well-functioning office here. Everybody covers everybody else. They know each other's job. Somebody's out, they can fit in. Do we need any practice of dual controls here, or sign off, because of all of the interactivity, which is good. I mean, it's good service, but I'm concerned about whether we need the proper sign offs and dual controls.
It would,
In regards to,
I don't know. I mean,
oh, okay, okay. I'm just
For example,
asking.
if you, I get think one that comes off the top of my head, if you were to prepare a deposit to go to the bank, does somebody sign off on that with you before it goes over? Simple things like that, but
Well, typically if I do a deposit, I do the deposit and Brian takes it. And then, well, Tamara does the nightly cash out usually, unless she's not here, or vice versa. If I'm not here, she does them. I prepare the deposits. She does the proof, I prepare the deposits. If I
Okay.
can't go to the bank, Brian goes to the bank for me and does the deposit.
so when you do that, I mean, this is just one example, there's probably multiple that we could look at. So when you do the deposit, that's from an accumulation of monies that somebody else gave you?
Right.
Okay, so that you do have dual control.
right.
Well, we have
Somebody
dual
else-
control, but on the days that Tamar's not here, then I do the cash out for the day. And every day, and the system creates a
Well,
cash out slip.
Days like that, when she's not here, what I would do is just have Brian sign off on it as a.
It's just simple things like that to protect you, that's all.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
could sit here and think of a
Same
dozen,
thing
Yeah.
with payroll and
Yeah.
someone reviewing it
Yeah.
before it's released or whatever.
I guess,
So,
go ahead.
so someone signing off from payroll, like before I do my ACH?
Yeah, just reviewing it to make, just make sure that your list of employees are all actual employees. And
Oh, okay.
It's a simple,
Brian,
it's a
you're
simple,
gonna be
I
busy.
guess my,
Well,
It's a quick, simple.
Yeah.
There are very
I mean,
few
the list,
employees,
I
so
mean, we
that
have
would be-
25, I think 25 on
Right.
25 and then another
That's to see if it
30,
looks-
33
See if
employees.
it looks
8 or
real.
9
Like
on
if
one week and
one
25
week,
the next week.
someone's getting paid $1,200, but the next week is paid $2,500, it's like, well, why is he getting paid $2,500?
Yeah.
It's just a.
or I guess my question,
Yeah, that's fine.
the reason for bringing that up, again, it's just everybody, it protects everybody and brings some uniformity. Could you give us maybe a list of where you think we ought to consider dual control?
Yeah, I can look at, because we always send you a list of your controls that we
Yeah.
have,
Yeah,
and I can see what,
Okay,
yeah.
and see if there's anything that where we can, because we do have a list of
We
controls that
did,
we
we
have.
did do a list on certain things because sometimes I'm the only person in the office and anyone else on vacation, I'm the only one there, so I'm gonna be the one who's gonna be doing the cash out every day. But the system does produce, within NEMRIC itself, it produces what you collect for cash every day, what you get for checks every day, what you get for credit card process every day. So that's on an internal report from NEMRIC, and then we do our own cash out report every day. We count the cash and do a report and match the two together, and we come up with the money, take the money out, put it, and then we deposit it into the bank. But, I mean, if,
We have a list of,
Yeah,
a
you
summary
have-
of
yeah.
the controls of different
Control-
areas, like
different-
cash receipts, cash
Yeah.
disbursements, property taxes, billed, and
yeah,
payroll.
What-
They review and see if there've been any changes, and then we do what's called a walkthrough of the controls on just one transaction in each area
yeah.
before we start our audit.
I mean, what you just gave is a perfect example, you're all by yourself,
Yeah,
that's where you get somebody else to just look at it, initial it or something, it just protects everybody.
okay.
The other thing is also cross-training, so that
Yeah.
when you're not here.
Yeah, I mean,
some-
she can
someone
do,
can do
she can
all
do
of
it, it's just that I'm not here, someday I'm off, and
I'm
some days
involved with
she's
the town
off.
right now, who
And some days we're here
didn't have
working
the
alone, no
cross-training,
one's
and the
here.
person was out with surgery for like a month and a half, and
Yeah.
they got behind the 8 ball pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've all read of cases where
Yeah.
fraud takes place and even dual
So-
control might not have stopped it, but, okay, thank you. That's, all I
Pretty
have.
much gone over the additional required reports, and I think I ran into other comments. It's pretty much just the payroll liability, and then not all the funds being in the NEMRIC trial balance, which it's just getting the cemetery funds in there and consolidating the recreation fund would make it a little bit easier on us.
Brian, you and I are getting together.
What's that?
I said, Brian, you and I are getting together.
Any other
I knew I had
questions?
it in there. I slipped it in,
I've
but
got
I
some on
got
the
looking through it a little
2022,
bit,
we'll look at those
That way I
later.
wouldn't forget it.
This, send them to me and I can
Okay,
respond to them if you want me to.
Well,
It wasn't it.
I think these, unfortunately, I think these were sent to you ahead of time, but that's fine.
Well,
I
it,
don't
well,
remember anything jumping out at me.
it probably was, if it came from a Gmail account, then
Well, that's okay, we
if
covered
it
it.
came from a Gmail account, it goes directly to our spam.
So,
Any,
just real quick then, on the cemetery and the rec issue, we're clear on what we gotta do to satisfy what's in that letter?
I'll talk to Chris more about what we're doing with this, with the rec department,
Yeah.
because it's kind of the
That's
same
payroll
but
issue,
different.
right?
Payroll.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
have just a question on cemetery. You say cemetery trust fund, so that's under the trustees of public money?
Is that all you're talking about, the
Or
trustees
the
of
actual
public money?
cemetery commission money?
no, the cemetery trust funds.
Okay.
Trust fund.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly
Not
which
the
ones you're
cem-
talking, I know
yeah,
exactly
there's
which
this-
ones you're
there's
talking about.
The Barney and the.
Yeah, the Barney and the Skills Fund, yep,
so,
okay.
so we'll see those again for the 2024.
Yeah.
It sounds like we haven't quite got there yet.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's, but now,
Well, we're finally getting up to current with the audits.
Yeah.
So before we're.
right, so.
We're playing catch up.
Yeah, but those same issues
COVID
would
pretty
have,
much-
We're on the
would have
same
carried
page.
to 2024
Right.
now. At some point here in 2025, you're gonna be able to say,
We're on the
Yeah.
same
we've got
page.
that figured out and moving
Yeah.
ahead.
Some of those documents are available for those trust funds. One has a missing document. Remember you asked me to look at them, and I did.
Right.
Yeah, they're there. Actually, they're quite unique to read them, the way they were written up and things.
Okay,
All right.
anything else?
Nope, good job.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye,
Good
Chris.
evening, guys.
You too.
I think you said 45 minutes last meeting to plan for, and I think that's what you pretty much did. Okay, well, we're gonna have the Swanton Cemetery Commission, Mr. John Kozowski. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Because if I'm not, correct me.
It's Ketchkowski is the closest you'll get.
Ketchkowski?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Ketchkowski, I'll try to get that right.
Also, Mr. Chair, if I may, for the record, we have 3 of the 5 positions of the cemetery commission present in this meeting, so this can also qualify as a cemetery commission meeting for purposes of the minutes.
I have a new bill.
Thank you.
So you want to call your cemetery commission meeting to order?
Just, yeah, I'll call it to order just for the purpose of listening to this
Does it
presentation.
have to be posted 2 days in advance?
No, well, it probably should have, but I didn't think of it, so that's.
At least you're not gonna take any action, this is more
We're not
information
taking
meeting.
off
All
action.
right.
Okay.
Either, no, go ahead.
So yes, as Brian said, John Ketchkowski, one of the 3 cemetery commissioners here. Here to talk about the Corporal Ward Historic Roadside Marker and the dedication that we will be having next year. So this was actually the brainchild of Nick and Brian. I kind of took the initiative and began doing the research so that we could honor Corporal Ward in a more permanent, long-term setting versus the proclamation that Governor Scott did in 2018.
Yeah,
I believe it was.
2018.
And so what we came up with that we would best qualify for is the Vermont Historic Roadside site marker. And there are 5 different categories for which to qualify. We qualified for number 2, which site is associated with the lives of a person of our past or present, birthplace of significant individual, burial place of said significant individual, building or site associated with said individual, group, and or business, which we qualified for the burial of Corporal Ward at Riverside. So, working with the Vermont National Guard, the National Guards Museum out of Camp Johnson in Colchester, as well as just general research online, compiled everything over roughly a 10-month period. Some of the records we were not able to get from the federal government due to a fire in the 70s that destroyed a number of military records from World War I to about Korea. So we submitted those to the Vermont Historic Preservation Council. That council is overseen by the governor and the state preservation officer. We provide the text for the marker, all relevant information where the marker is going to be placed. They review it, and then any changes or any modifications they vote on and they approve. Brian also sat in on that meeting in March, and what was decided is the just before the burial vault on Riverside is where the state would like to place that marker, slightly just off the roadside. In, I believe it was last month they dropped the post off. Yes, last month they dropped the post off, and it's about a 10-foot aluminum pole, 4 inches in diameter, and the plaque is at the foundry. We don't have a time frame, but it will be done roughly in the fall. That is all paid for by the state. The town does not incur any expenses for the marker or the pole. We just have to, the cemetery commission, oversees the concrete foundation that the marker will go in once we determine a date that will be put in, which Brian will coordinate with the highway department at a later date. As for the dedication itself, it's been scheduled for April 12th of next year, which is the anniversary in which Corporal Lord was killed in France when an artillery shell made a direct hit on the dugout that he was taking refuge in, going into his machine gun position. The initial invite draft was worked on by former Commissioner Macy DuPont. I'll pass it around for everyone to take a look at. And we are also working on something called a challenge coin. And what these are is these are created for major events, military units, etc. And that is the draft we are working on. The front is the state logo, the back is Corporal Lord's division, which was the Yankee division, given that the units were comprised of all different areas of New England. So that is this, and then this is just a generic challenge coin, just kind of to see for comparison's sake of what will be produced once we decide on the final design. As for the event itself, we've worked with the Vermont National Guard, specifically Staff Sergeant Chase out of the St. Albans recruiting office, as well as Mr. Clark in the VFW. The National Guard has been kind enough to provide us 5 members to assist with any setup and takedown, either at Riverside or at the VFW, as well as a chaplain and a individual holding the rank of E5, which is sergeant, to help with the unveiling. And then the VFW is kindly offered to host the post-reception at the VFW, as well as a honor guard contingent and the bugler to play taps. So currently the project is set up into, 5 phases. We're currently finishing phase 1 and working on phase 2. Phase 1 is long-term invites, so individuals that require further invitation. These include Governor Scott, the French Embassy, as well as the French Consulate, and then various elected representatives. So we're still waiting to hear back, and those invitations were sent out at the end of April.
The Lord family don't have any, there's no descendants.
No, Brian and Nick have looked into that, and the last living relative that any of us have been able to find passed away, I believe it was the end of last year.
Does this have any connection to the Lord Road?
I don't know. That's a,
Yeah.
good question. I'm not
Yeah.
sure where they, in the historical society, where was the Lord farm?
I would have to look that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that on me.
No.
So furthermore, other invitations, not only will this be a public invitation, but more specifically, we are extending this to the, was it Phillipsburg?
The Royal Canadian Legion in Phillipsburg.
So
April
they'll be
16,
invited as well.
2027. April 12.
Local media,
4/12/27.
that list is being compiled, and in late September, the state will work with us on creating a press release to the various media outlets, and will reach out to us, reach out to them. As for, excuse me, phase 3, Nick, Brian, and myself will be reaching out as well to the high school, their history classes and AV classes to help us in any way they can, as well as just get that kind of community history experience that you can't really get inside a classroom or inside a textbook. And then phases 4 and 5 will be essentially just set up rundowns and just making sure everything is set for April. So the ceremony itself at Riverside, when you enter and off the vault, there's a slight dip. That is the best place we can do it to hold all of the guests as well as the public. Parking logistics are still being worked out, given Riverside does not have the same space that we do, in the park and surrounding area. So that will be discussed later on this summer, as well as some of the more finer details. And then once those have been worked out, 3 of us will be back here probably late fall to give just an overall presentation of how things will go. So.
Are you gonna have a web page that we can, get on the town site, or?
We're gonna work with Brian on that. The Cemetery Commission also has a Facebook page as well. So, postings as well as just general information will be shared both on that Facebook page as well as through the town website.
We can put that invite on the town and the village
Yeah.
website,
Yep.
help get the word out.
Yep,
Yep.
Right.
yeah, definitely. That sounds like a really big event.
Well, it should be,
For the placing of the post, that will be done this fall, because we're
Yeah.
not sure if the frost will be on the ground come April 12th.
Yep, good idea.
So I was going through the road commissioner, who's, I've prepped Kevin already. They actually went and collected the post at, behind Nick's, the building behind where Nick lives, because that's where they dropped it
That's
off.
what-
Not
in
Nick,
my
I'm
house.
sorry, behind John's house. And, so they've got it up at the town garage, and, so they'll, set that in for us, this fall.
Based on the weight of that marker, you might check with your state contacts and see if they have a certain way they like the post to be set, because that's got a fair amount of weight to it
Yeah.
compared to the typical aluminum.
Right, that we
Sign.
see everywhere.
Yeah.
So what was told to me, and again, this will be given the ground that where the cemetery is, obviously is different. Their recommendation is to go roughly 2 to 3 feet with a concrete base. You put the post in, you pour the concrete, reinforce it that way, and then there are special, not rivets, screws that will go into the marker. There's 2 to 3 of them, and once the marker's delivered, it'll be stored at the town garage, and then at that point, we can kind of just do a rough idea of what it is. But we will be reaching back out to the state preservation officer later this summer, just kind of to again follow up and go through things. And she will also be at the dedication to give remarks. And I can pass on her email if anyone here has any questions that can be directly answered by her.
Very good.
thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
Very nice, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Oh, and then the cemeteries, are we able to meet down at the cemetery Saturday mornings?
Yeah, I can do that.
I can do Saturday.
Yeah, but can?
That works for me.
That
That works for me.
Riverside or Outlook.
Riverside will start there.
Okay, see you
All
guys
right,
Saturday.
thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks, Sean.
we're adjourned on the cemetery commission.
All right, moving on to item 3, law enforcement, Swanton Animal Control.
We've got a fairly active report in the packet, nothing appears to be too serious. There was one dog bite.
Yeah, that's the second item.
Yeah, dog bit the contractor. The dog was on its own property.
Oh.
So the dog bit.
When you say contractor, one of our employees or
No,
somebody else?
Somebody that was employed. His dog was bit. The person did go to the ER. The dog has been licensed and has his shots, so that's,
And it was on his property.
the contractor was on the property that the dog was, and there's not much we can do because
Yeah.
the dog's doing his job.
Yep.
And, let's see, I think that was pretty much it. It's been, and now Jim is on vacation,
19th and 3rd.
19th and 23rd.
What do you do if a dog is thinking that they're protecting the occupants of the house, they might bark? How much is allowed? I mean, or is it just kind of barking that goes on and on? And on?
Constant.
Oh, okay, all right,
Constant,
okay.
you know,
It's considered a nuisance when
Right.
they're consistently doing it.
Right. If you hear a dog barking constantly. A number of years ago, my neighbor had a dog that was very good, never barked or anything else. I knew they were awake quite late at night before they get back, and I was sitting in the living room, and just kind of dozing off, and I heard him barking. It was in the summer, I heard it, and it was an aggressive bark, so I got up to investigate. And I figured somebody's around that house, but I didn't see anybody, but, and then he was quiet after that.
Any other questions on animal control?
It's been quiet since Jim's been away.
He doesn't need to. 2019. Just jinx yourself.
Okay, we're gonna move on to expenditures. The orders are all dated, I believe, 5/21/2025
They are.
to 6/17/2025.
What do you-
So we'll start with the general orders, entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to include the general orders of $125,825.69.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Highway orders, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the highway orders in the amount of $54,799.01.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Special orders, entertain.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the special orders in the amount of $95,118.28.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve special orders, $95,118.28. Any discussion?
Just on the, we got two different accounts, I know we're using the special order, or ARPA, whatever you wanna call it. Some of it's library, some of it's, rail trail. So, but you keep track of that, you have that amount,
yeah.
okay, 'cause-
And there is 4th Street in there too.
yeah, and 4th Street,
Yes.
okay.
And we've got a line item for those signs. Now that we get this approved tonight, then we'll go back and hopefully spend some money on that line item.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Any other?
Maybe once in a while, just, I don't think you have to do that every meeting, but if we are spending a lot out of there, maybe just give us an account balance for each one.
Oh, you want to balance for each one?
Yeah.
Especially like the library repair, that whole
Yeah.
insulation, I'd like
Yeah.
to see the,
Yeah,
kind of the detail in that.
yeah.
Any other discussion regarding special funds? All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Library orders,
I move we approve the library orders for the amount of $10,903.51 for the date stated.
do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
I'll make a motion to approve the highway and general payroll in the amount of $37,206.68.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded, approve the highway and general payroll. Any
Thank
further
you.
discussion? All these are employees of the town on here?
I didn't see any names
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Library payroll,
I'll make a motion, we approve the library payroll orders for the equal date of $9,296.40.
I'll second it.
motion's been made and seconded, to approve the library payroll of $9,296.40. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Okay. Highway. Going over that way. There's another one. I think everybody's got one. All right, last month, crew's been prepping for paving, a lot of that's knocking back shoulders so the water drains better, and also, sweeping the streets. They changed the culvert on Sweet Hollow Road. They completed, first round of, roadside mowing. And today they actually did an emergency repair on South River Street. Someone called and said there was a hole about 5 feet deep. It was about this big through the pavement, but then, when they opened it up, there's an issue with a culvert there. So they, worked with the village, made some emergency repairs, and then, they'll go after a more permanent repair in the next couple of weeks. Paving, plan right now is early August. Pike is a little bit behind schedule because of all the rain. And the second piece of this is, in the packet. Pike has come back and said they would do the McClom Shore and the county road paving at the same price per ton as what they bid and we awarded. So they sent a note for us to sign. Brian's already signed it, but it hasn't been sent. So I think the board should approve this. It's up to 175 max from the state, and we have to pay 20%, which would be about, it would mean the state share would be about 168,000 of that 175. The thing is, I think we should put a note on here, have a discussion with Pike, and just put a note on here. This is subject to us getting that approved grant. They sent us an email, they said it's approved, but they have told us we won't have the grant in hand till mid-July, right? Roughly, early July, mid-July. The budget, the state budget's been approved, but I don't really wanna go forward unless we.
Yeah, it's good to do that.
I'd rather have that
Yeah.
note on here with both parties signing it than just to send this to them. And
So what's the difference the town has to come up with?
it would be basically 38,000 from 38,000. And
We
that's what we
almost
had
had
that
that left
balance,
over.
the balance
Yeah.
from the other, yes, and that's what the plan would be.
Yep, then might as well do it. Do we need to make a motion to that effect, Joe?
We need to make a motion to approve this, subject to the grant approval
Yeah.
being received.
Did we have to put, was this included in the original discussion we had, or did we have to send this out for bids?
I don't believe we have to send it out for bids, it's basically amending the contract that we awarded. Because Pike is honoring their $80.64
Oh, yeah, I
per
see
ton.
that, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so
Same price we got for the originally.
Right.
Yeah,
So
so,
we put out for bid and Pike was the low bidder at this 8064, so we asked Pike, we got this other work, if the grant gets approved by the state approved the grant, and just recently Pike thought about it and said they'll come back in and honor the 8064, so I see this as kind of like an addition to the existing contract that we're applying.
Okay, so this falls within the parameters of our purchasing policy then?
I think
Yeah.
so, I see this as a
Okay.
change order to the contract.
Okay.
Yeah. And we already bid paving prices in 8064.
Yeah, they were
was-
by
was-
far.
What's that?
They were by far the lowest.
That's a very good price.
Yeah.
And they obviously know the business.
Yeah, so.
So I would entertain a motion to approve this, subject to the receiving of the grant from the state and having Pike initial off on this as well, with that note typed on here. Someone wanna make that motion?
Okay, I'll move that we approve the, proposed contract from Pike, contingent upon state approval of the grant and contingent upon, for the amount of, oops, right there, $190,874.88. Contingent upon the state approval of the grant and also contingent upon, Pike signing this at that price.
Okay,
And that contains, that also reflects what we have to pay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Do you wanna put in your motion for Brian to
Oh,
sign it?
yeah.
Yeah, and also, Steve just said, that the town agrees to pay its portion,
Of the grant?
yes.
Yeah,
And allow Brian to sign the
yeah,
contract.
I just didn't wanna be a.
Yeah, you're right,
Responsible for
it should be in,
$190,000.
you're right, it should be in there.
Other way they can go
Watch the big
fast,
ones.
they can go faster on McQuon Shore now, with a better road.
I'll second his amendment.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Apologize on my notes, I don't know why I typed Comstock, cause that should have been county, just so you're aware. Swanton Hill Road, all the paperwork is complete, both landowners have signed off a temporary construction easement, thanks to Brian for, getting them in here and talking with them, showing them the drawing, so. We are gonna go up and start removing asphalt off the ledge area that's gonna get blasted, but the actual blasting is probably gonna be late July. And that's when it's really gonna get interesting up there, and, our team will be up there for probably 2 weeks, working that. The blaster thought he could get it all blasted in a week, but there's a lot of material to haul out of there. One spot it's 7 feet that we're dropping that, and right now we're trying to find a home that'll take all that rock, because we cannot use it all up there. But it's moving ahead, and, looking forward to getting that a much safer place for folks next,
Yeah, probably
next
wanna
winter.
try to get that done before they start paving, eh, because that's part of the our pave, no?
We've got money
Yeah,
to go out and find somebody, we're getting.
so we don't have anybody lined up to pave that
No.
right at the present time.
No. That, worst case is it stays open.
Yeah,
It'll still be better than it
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
And
it'd be
and the
better.
one thing about if it stays open for winter, the settlement.
yeah, probably.
I really don't wanna put a top coat on, but I wanna get the base coat. And if we get up there in early July, we'll ask a couple
Yeah.
pavers to give us a price and see if what they'll charge us. And then whether they can even get it in this year. Brooklyn Street, talked about it before, Brian's got the needed easements made up, gotta get the landowners to sign them. And work to begin in the fall, when drier, hopefully, and I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about that, because another note here we can talk about. Line striping, talked to L&D and, told them early September is when we would like to do it. And I also asked the state to hold off on McQuam and county, cause those are class 2 roads that the state automatically stripes every year. Very interested in the local office, district office, just said go to this email address and send them a note, and he said sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I sent him an email and said don't stripe those till later, but we'll see how that goes. So trees, this one shocked me just a little bit when Kevin called me the other day. 153 and counting right now of trees that need removing in our right of ways. Knew it was a large number, did not realize it was this big. So we are really turning up the priority to remove as many of these as we can, which is basically get them dropped down, cut them up in log length and get them out of the area. And then we gotta find someone who'll even take all this wood. And we're no way we're gonna get 153 done this year. We're just gonna
I
have,
don't think so. Couldn't afford it.
yeah.
Can we handle all of these, Joel?
No, not all of them. No, there's a couple already down, West Swanton where they're too close to power lines and stuff, and we have some of our own money, and a couple of those trees are getting dropped next week. We've gone out and got bids, and
So do we have to, for the ones that we can't handle ourselves, we have to hire someone?
yes.
Do we have a budget item for that?
We have a budget item, it's small, it's 13,000, and just 4 big ones on McQuam, right near the culvert, it's just south of the James Road, there's X's on them, $4,000 to remove those. The crane and
For all of
time.
them or a piece?
No, for the 4 that are there that are marked, yeah. Yeah, it's,
Well, it's not
we,
cheap.
we're gonna put a bigger budget for next year, cause, we gotta get moving on this before they start falling into the roads.
Workers' comp rate's real high for them guys, real high.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's the highest in the state for tree logging, yeah.
Yeah, I bet it is. Next item, biking signs, this is a new law the state has passed, and I didn't even realize it till 2 people now have contacted me about putting some of these signs up, and they talk about McQuam Shore Road. Well, it's not just McQuam Shore, we got bikers on a lot of our roads, and I would like to start buying some of these signs. We have a line item to buy signs. Kevin's gonna price them out. I don't have a price yet, but unless someone has a real issue with it, I'd like to get some of these and really put one at the beginning of the road and one at the end of the road.
How many signs do you just anticipate to do it properly? Cause you know, I'm just gonna say for West Lawn for sure, Tabor Road, Lakewood Drive, Campbell, Bay Road, there's a lot of bikes on that road, Church Road. So you're gonna have to do every road in town.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe like Pond Road, not necessarily doing Pond Road.
Maybe,
Sweet
yeah,
Hollow,
yeah,
maybe not, but
yeah.
definitely the more recreational areas,
Yes,
West
yes.
Swanton, Lake Road, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say just McQuam
Yeah,
Shore,
yeah,
you know.
down
but
through that area.
Those would be the starter, and then we'll
And the
get
county
more.
road,
County road, middle road.
yeah,
A lot of people do that.
Yep, they do that loop, Comstock, yep.
South River.
South River.
You're gonna have quite a few, but it's a good thing to do, you're seeing it more and more on the road, and it's a good idea.
And it's the state law, so we might
Yeah,
as
oh,
well.
it's a state law, so we got no choice anyway.
Well, the state doesn't say you gotta put them up, but
Oh.
the law is 4 feet.
Okay,
Too bad you couldn't get a handheld sign you could carry. Some people just won't give.
And then Brian put together a request for proposal for a new pickup without the body. We've talked about this before,
yep.
so I wanted to see at the board tonight. And unfortunately, we didn't get this out to you, so we could look at it before. But this is something, if we send it out, this is a request for proposal, so the different dealers can come back and say, well, we'd like to provide this in lieu of this or something. It's basically to get this out so they can come back, give us, their thoughts on what we want, and they can talk with Brian and Kevin and, get us a proposal, and we can open bids and,
Are you gonna contact the dealers directly so this goes fairly good?
I would like to,
Mail
yeah.
it.
I mean, to me, it ought to be
Yeah.
pretty much St. Albans and Swanton
Yep,
dealers.
I would say
and,
St. Albans Swan, yeah.
Planning on.
Yeah. No particular brand, get it to all of them and
Yep.
see what they come up with, and then we can look at it and make our decision.
I heard there's a big discount on them cyber trucks,
Yeah, one thing,
that's what I heard.
Brian asked me today in discussion with Kevin that whether or not we want the plow package, and I don't on that. I want that to be a
Yeah,
good work truck,
yeah.
that we don't beat up with a plow.
Right.
We've got enough
Yep,
plow equipment.
yeah, I wouldn't do it either.
And if you guys are good with that, we won't go with a plow
Not the
package.
reason we're buying, that truck should not have a plow on it,
That
it'll
is to
last
move
twice as long.
workers, it looks to move workers around.
Yeah,
Is everybody good with us going out with this?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Last item regarding our snowplow, we have received a
Yep.
late bid, but I'd like to even hold off on that,
Okay.
because we are calling a few of the dealers around here to see if they have any thoughts on
Yep.
how best to handle trying to get rid of this.
Yeah, we need to get a realistic price what that's gonna bring,
Yep.
you know. I know what we want, but we gotta be realistic.
When you say snowplow, you're talking about the big truck again with,
We put out a request for proposal that we were selling, well, not request proposal, request for bid,
For bid, selling it.
to get rid of one of our old
Oh,
trucks to
okay.
replace that new one.
yeah.
Yeah. And Earl talked about going to some of those magazines, but I asked Kevin to call some of the
Yeah,
dealers that we work with and say, what's this worth?
Yeah.
And see what we can do with it.
then you could advertise it realistically.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, any questions? That takes care of highway, old town business, purchasing policy, that's in the packet.
And I got the original here someplace on the nice paper for signature.
You you need a motion to accept that?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the update of the purchasing policy. Any discussion?
Just wanna make sure that, I probably missed it, cause there's a lot of stuff here, but that borrowing money is not allowable without select board approval.
Yeah, I think you brought that up before, Earl.
Yeah, I did, and
And it's on page 12.
you seen it, Kathy?
On page 12, it goes over all the minor purchases, major purchases,
And it says
large
that,
purchases.
but does it say it has to be done with select board approval?
Loans, I think, is what
You're
specifically.
looking specifically for loans.
But I mean, they can't anyway.
Well, they're not supposed to, but, you know, if it doesn't say it in the policy, somebody
Oh,
might pick up, you know what I mean?
Well, it's against state law for starts.
Yeah.
I know, but it should say in the policy to make it clear, you know?
I mean, I can.
Cause I mean, some people do it, I can see this whole issue as being an innocent thing, but
Yeah.
if it was clear in the policy that it couldn't be done, then it would have been taken care of right before anything ever happened.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we discussed, we definitely
Yeah.
want it in here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, well, I can add it and we can sign this.
I also made a suggestion about taking out newspapers, but there's some reason why, in terms of advertising bids, but if there's some reason why we couldn't.
Well, sometimes it's, if it's grants required.
It's required, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Which, a
It might be-
lot of the same with putting notices like the DRB in a newspaper, and I think that needs to be pulled out, but that's legally required, unfortunately.
We got the pyramided piece in, but yeah, I think we should have a separate paragraph that
Yeah,
says
that's-
loans.
My fault.
When you come into the purchase and stuff, that should be the lead paragraph, right off.
Loans, there's no, yep, alright. I would say we hold off then if everyone's good
Okay,
with that.
yep, we can do that, and I apologize for that.
Whistleblower,
That's exactly as it was.
yeah, I got a little bit of a, well, a couple comments, no one else does. What's the definition of a protected employee? It's mentioned oodles of times in here and there's no definition. I don't really see this as it's written as a policy. I see this as somebody, I think you guys said it came from Vermont League of Cities and Towns, just put out whistleblower protections.
Is it a liability issue for the towns, is that why they put it out?
In the ethics legislation that was passed, it was required that towns adopt a policy and to protect whistleblowers. And this is what the league came up with to cover.
So we're not obligated to take it as written.
Well, no, but lawyers wrote it.
Yeah, we have to, we add to it, we have to make sure it's enforceable.
Yeah.
No, I don't know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind if we turn this into a policy. I mean, we don't have a signature page right now, I don't think. do we?
No,
No, you'd have to
And-
put something together.
We should find out what is the definition of a protected employee.
Fair question.
Because no entity of municipality can prohibit a protected employee from engaging. No protected employee will be subject to. And on, as I read this, I kept hearing that, and if you don't have the definition as part of your policy, then it's subject to,
Interpretation.
yeah, a protected employee, that's another paragraph right there. So I think we should get that definition and then make it look like a policy, something even in the beginning, a statement from
We gotta
us that
add
we
it
don't.
to, we should add it to that.
Yeah, we could add, that's something that we could add to that, wouldn't be, a lawyer couldn't have too much, get too upset about that. We're just adding a definition, yeah.
I would think within that, training, which I know I've still gotta do mine, but, I would think within there's gotta be some definition of what a protected employee is. Those are my
Now,
comments.
we could just staple it to the back. I think it's a good idea, sure.
We'll have to bring that back too.
2025 contract for Missisquoi Valley Rescue, page 20.
and in your packet, that was something we started last winter and it fell by the wayside, but we resurrected it. It's retroactive effective back to January 1, but it's what everything, there's been no other changes on it except I inserted the dollar amounts based on what's being paid in the schedule of payments that Kathy is making.
Did the rescue squad have a chance to look at this?
Yes, they like.
Where's the dollar amount there, mine,
Page 21.
21? Well, then I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with Missisquoi Valley Rescue for the amount of $259,400 with annual or monthly payments, is that how you do it, Kathy?
Yes.
Monthly payments in the amount of,
Well, what they do.
oh, okay, I see.
What they do, January, February, March, they get 3 months.
Yeah.
And then one for the following 9 months, they'll get
Okay, so we'll
one
make the,
payment.
yeah,
21,000.
this has already been done anyway, but we'll make the lump sum, amount of $64,872.47 by March 15th of this year, 2025, and then 9 monthly payments of $21,614.17 due the 15th of each month after that, ending December 15th, 2025.
Brian, sign it.
I'll-
You better
Oh,
have
and to have, our town administrator, Brian Savage, sign the contract.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
You could put acts of God usually in a contract, at least that's what I read.
Pretty common.
It's pretty common.
Force majeure, call
That's
force
part of
majeure.
insurance, so you hear it all the time in
Yeah,
insurance
yeah,
policy.
Yeah, I looked it up, it seems like, yeah, you can do that.
It's pretty uncommon not to see it.
It's pretty uncommon not to see it.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed, so moved. Ratification of appointment of Vaughn Como to represent the town in tax sales.
Yeah, as you recall at the last meeting, when I had to send out a memo to the board and everyone agreed, after explanation of how it would work with this fee, it's set by state statute, that, to go ahead and notify the tax collector that, she was okay to go ahead and get Dawn to do it, and I'd like that to get ratified for the minutes so that it'll show up in the auditor's office.
Entertain a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve, the appointment of Vaughn Como to represent the town of Swanton in tax bills.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Discussion of state drive.
Okay. As we all know, State Drive, that goes to the new Agency of Transportation facility, which is just about ready to be occupied. The offices are done and they're moving into them. They hope to be moved in by this Friday.
They get their permits.
Oh, yeah, they were all properly permitted, and they paid for it, but that's the last pay, oh. Anyways,
Look at the lot.
going forward,
Thank you.
So the edge of State Drive, the new portion, which is from Route 207 up to the facility, and then is going to be open to traffic. And I've been approached by Mr. Richard Cummings, who has got a development going in Jerry Mill Common, and he's in the process of expanding that, and he can sell 2 additional lots for housing if he can exit Jerry Mill Drive out onto that
Lydia's
portion.
Ridge.
Oh, Lydia's Ridge, I'm sorry. Lydia's Ridge to go exit out onto State Drive. The state doesn't have a problem with it. They fully expected that developers were gonna use it. That's why they said they built it like the way they did. And however, it is still not ours to allow technically, as the state still has the easement on that portion. And there's gonna be some time for us to get that transferred so that we can grant permission. So Joel and I spoke today about it, and I got hold of Brad, or I advised Mr. Cummings to call the Agency of Transportation. Brad McAvoy, who's the project manager of that project. And Mr. McAvoy called me. They're fine with it, and they understand. I mean, that we are trying to get housing built, and this would make an additional 2 lots for Mr. Cummings to build houses on. So we've just are looking from this board is that just a quick letter which I can author to the state saying that we have no problems the time being for Mr. Cummings to use that. And then we'll work on getting a meeting and figuring out what we need to do to get that whole thing transferred over to us.
He's talking about 2 houses or two lots with multiple houses?
Well, he said 2 lots, so I believe it's,
Well, it all comes down, that's still a class 4 road.
yes, yeah.
Is the state gonna accept the responsibility for maintaining it for these additional lots?
Well, they are gonna maintain it as they.
Well, we have to understand
Yeah.
that, you know, that the town's not gonna go up there.
That's right, that's right.
Right, first of all, State Drive up to the new office. Where's he hooking in?
Right, at the
I
entrance to
just
the
went to look
office.
for the picture, where's the picture at?
Is he hooking into this, what the state has, or is he hooking into the
He's gonna
class
take-
4?
Into the paved part.
Give me a minute here, I had it.
Right, cause I mean, part of that right now is just
Yeah.
the
Is
state,
the
yeah.
sta- Yeah, it's class 4. So here we are.
well, it's not even class 4, the state, there's the class 4 part of the old Sholin
The
Road.
old Sholin Road.
And then there's the state piece.
Right, so this is was known as the Sholin Road.
Yeah.
This is Lydia's Drive. The state is there. Now you got a better
I'm
picture
pulling it up
of
right now. Give me a second.
But the state is on this side of the road.
Okay.
This square lot is this 10. So he's basically coming out between their 2 entrances. They have one entrance right here
Yeah.
and one right here. So
And
he's
that's
coming
all,
right down
and
through
this
the
is
middle.
all paved.
So
He's gonna
that's
enter
paved,
onto
and that's
the
actually the
part.
class 4 Sholin
Yeah.
Road there then.
Yeah,
So he's actually gonna enter onto the paved and go
Yeah.
this way.
But the agreement was the state was gonna upgrade it and maintain it until they turned it over to us.
Until the town was at some
Right.
point in time reclassify the road.
right.
And
Yeah,
Of course,
here's
we
their
still
lot right
need
here.
the deed or the
For the
easement
remain,
for the
for the
road.
rest of it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So what I would say is, a letter that we concur with doing this, but it still should be subject to DRB approval as well. So they'll be watching on whatever their requirements are for how
Yeah.
they want this road to be made,
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
so.
well, that's, why he's
Right, 'cause they're,
scheduled to the
right, but I
DRB.
mean, I just wanna make sure this letter doesn't
Right.
override anything of the DRB.
I'm not gonna be in favor of it unless the state agrees to our original terms and also take care of this, you know, understanding there's gonna be a couple other lots going on there, house lots. They know that, okay. that's
Yeah,
fine.
well,
Cause he's gotta get
you know.
the state approval.
Yeah.
She needs our letter
Yeah.
and so it should say subject to the state approval.
Yeah, yeah.
And DRB approval.
Yeah,
Cause what he's saying is if he can't do this, he's gonna lose these 2 lots putting in a cul-de-sac.
oh, I see what he's saying,
Yeah.
okay, understandable.
And is this future development out here?
I'm sure.
Yeah,
Cause
which
he
makes
owns this
it,
lot and he
yeah.
owns all of
I mean,
this.
the nice thing is you got 2 different ways to get in
Yeah,
here if
but
something
how-
happens.
Yeah, but are these people gonna automatically take that road because, see, that's something to consider right there, this could create some. It may be more than just 2 lots, is that,
Well,
is there, or is it
No,
limited?
it's all of these lots. He would lose 2 lots
He would
if
lose
he can't do this.
Okay,
He's
So-
not gaining anymore. He's still trying to get, these 3 are already done. These 7 are the one he's trying to get approved for the DRB.
but these, if, what you're saying is 2 more he can get if he don't have to know.
No.
He will be able to get these 2. If he can't, he loses these 2 lots.
Yeah, but all these lots are gonna access that road,
As well, these 3, I'm sure they're already approved.
They
so they're not
access
even
this
gonna
way.
use Bushy
And they
Road.
could-
Well, they might
They
use
could
bushy,
even
I
come in
mean,
this way to go to the church if they want to avoid
Yeah,
Bushy Road.
they can.
They
They
can.
they have 2 ways to get out of there.
That's, I
Don't
was
you
thinking
remember
this
in
is
the
small, but it's
planning-
gonna have a fair amount of in
It
and
could.
out.
It will,
Yeah,
and the state said he expected that, that's why they built it.
yeah.
I think in the new planning changes, they said if you didn't have another outlet, you had to put a cul-de-sac in there.
Yeah,
So that just makes sense. what he's
Yeah,
And
to me,
that's
it's
why
a good,
he's
it's
trying to
good,
eliminate
you know, I
that.
hear having 2 entrances and
For
emergency
safety
vehicle,
vehicle,
something's
yeah.
going on, you can get in a different way, it's.
Just for my clarity, right now, the state controls the road.
Correct. They
And then
maintain and plow it.
They
and-
maintain, plow it, and then the town, eventually, we're trying to work out, so the town,
But we own the road. still.
We own that part of it, Sholin.
not the
Class
new
4
road,
road.
not the new part.
What they're
Right,
trying,
not the new part, but this is
Yeah,
actually connected to
that- yeah,
Sholin.
Yeah, we own a section of it, in front of
Right.
their building, basically.
Yep,
it's hard to.
and once, okay, so once, if we do approve the building of the extension, would we take over the maintenance of that?
Well, that's the issue.
Yeah.
And I don't know, now it's a bigger development, I'm thinking, that was what our plan was in the future, I mean, it might be simpler just to do it.
And keep in mind, as you get going on the state road
Yeah.
further down, you're gonna have eventually a military
Yeah.
installation.
Yeah.
Then after that, there's, who knows what the other property owners will be developing,
right,
so,
but that, yeah, the military's up here,
yeah.
and as far as Lydia's Ridge, don't know how they're subdividing that, and whether that's something we take over or not, I mean, that's,
No,
that's
that's
a-
a
that's-
ridge itself,
This is
no, we
private.
don't know. That's
right,
private.
it would
Yeah,
need to
that
be
would-
done as private, and if they
It's-
don't,
Seems kinda logical, you're gonna see more.
yeah.
We hope.
So I don't know, I guess it's time we started considering this, because it is a Southern Growth District. Is this another step forward?
But in interest of trying to get Mr. Cummings to get approval at the DRB meeting next week,
Yeah.
that's why we're just doing this, 'cause
I'm comfortable with a motion for a letter that says we are okay with
Yeah.
Lydia's Ridge connected into Sholin Road,
Yeah.
subject to DRB
Yeah.
Approval.
and state approval.
Yeah,
And no liability to the town.
And, right,
yeah. Then we can continue the discussion whether it's time to make the move or not, just so we don't wanna hold up his
Right.
project.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
this would allow him
Yeah.
to get, it- to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
And then we get to move forward at
Yeah.
some point and get
Yeah.
to take that over.
yep,
Yeah.
Take over
Okay.
State Drive,
yes.
not
they got-
Lydia's Ridge.
Right, not leaving it, right.
That's, yes, okay,
Sure.
yep.
Yeah,
Go, so entertaining that motion,
So move.
Okay, second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? Hear none. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Promote Swanton update and graphic design selection.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so pending all the feedback we received on the design that was last presented to you, we submitted that to the graphic designer, and this is the final plan that he has sent back to us. So we're looking for approval to accept this design and move forward with the construction of the signs. In addition to the graphic design, Earl and I went out to start soliciting information from businesses about what they'd like to be listed on or as on our business directory. While doing that, we shared this kind of concept with them, and we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from the community. Folks already asking for Swanton merch with this logo on it, just for feedback for you guys.
Yeah, and it's kind of remarkable. We went out last Friday, and you probably got 9 responses somewheres in that area already.
6 or 7?
Yeah, you know, the business community, I believe is gonna really appreciate, at least my take on it, our effort in doing this, and I think it's gonna be good for Swan.
Is the village seen this?
Well, not yet, and, you know, I had some thoughts on that too, because when we're coming into the signage, there's gonna be some difference here, but I think Nicole's, when we had this discussion, was saying, like, you know how in our website, this would be the center, you know, underneath would be the town and village, has present. Now, how are we gonna do the signs?
I
Coming
had,
into
I
the
had,
town?
I had their little emblem down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So it would still do that.
But are we gonna put the signs in the exact same place? That's another issue.
As far as I'm concerned, we've been 2 years and we still don't have them changed. They look like crap and no one's come up with a better location that I know of, but that's just my take on it.
Typically, you'll see in towns that, you know, when you come in, like, I would say one place that would be ideal for at least one of them would be Lakewood Drive.
Instead of waiting to come into it right after the wildlife refuge on 78, having it more pronounced in West Swanton.
All right, we can have that discussion,
Yeah.
but first, I mean, shouldn't we run this by the village
Absolutely.
before we 100% approve this?
Yep.
Especially if we're gonna do the welcome to sign. And another thought I was gonna share with you is that down at the VFW, that art board, sign board, is maybe having this in the center and then dividing up about 4 different sections, which maybe has like the library with some other buildings and maybe something with the
Yeah.
wildlife, you know, blue heron and some,
Well-
and using this as kind of that whole thing, but again, I think you got a little bit of
Yeah,
an
that-
obligation to get the village to say, yeah, this is nice.
I think there's a transition between the town and the village that has to take place as far as signage is concerned when you're coming into the village areas. Might direct it more to the what's available there, parking and shopping or dining, rather than a sign, just a sign like this. And I don't know, there's probably something, they have improvements that the trustees are supposedly, they've already started some in front of, Merchants Row. I don't know what the rest of them are, if they include signage or not. Are you aware of anything?
I'm not no.
No. So that's another reason why we should meet with the trustees and look at this and discuss those issues.
Yeah, I mean, Susie was
I
one
mean-
of the ones that was on
Yeah.
the.
And she's seen this,
Right.
but not all of the trustees
Right.
have seen it.
But
Because what I was gonna do is take this, if someone sends me the file, I will send it to the sign folks, and that way we could have that and this overall, and then that is a discussion with them.
When it comes to locations, with one on the St. Albans Swanton border on Route 7,
It's not such a heavily traveled road. I was thinking that one there, you might wanna maybe put on the Swanton Village side of, John's Bridge. And then maybe one at the coming off the interstate, but that village, but we don't wanna do this unless we're gonna have, I think there need to be some changes in the village signage too. You know, to make all this work, really work.
All right, and so this, we think the village should say, give us a head nod before we as a group
Yeah.
approve it.
Yeah,
I
Just
think
common
so.
courtesy.
Yeah.
yeah.
How about any other promote Swanton update?
Well, other than getting, working on the website,
Gathering information from the
yeah,
business directory.
and we did take some pictures that we could use on our website, you know, to try to highlight the community more. Maybe the opening page would be a little bit brighter and a little more grab you type front page. We're working on that and, you know, through EcoPixel, we already have the agreement with them, you know, we just gotta, we can start, and I know you asked that question, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't start sending what's coming in down.
Nicole and I have figured out she has an intern starting and I'll send it to them.
Okay. So we're moving ahead slowly but surely.
All right, well, thank you. FEMA buyout.
Okay, there's 3 properties in the town and village, 1 in the village, 2 in the town, that are participating in the FEMA buyout. Flood zone's been going on for 2 years, it's been a 2-year process. And we're to the point that one of the sellers of the, or property owners is pretty much ready to go. But we're at the point that we have to hire, the town has to hire an attorney, which will be reimbursable expense under the FEMA program. We have to hire an attorney to do title searches and prepare deeds, et cetera, that is needed for this closing. I would like to be authorized to contact Von Como and ask him if he's interested in doing that legal work for us. And while I'm at it, I may also talk to him about further business with the advice of this board, with the consent of the board, as we may need something. I'm having the same issues back with the, as we have had in the past.
So you're recommending that you'd like to expand the business we do with them?
Yeah, and see how he does in this and expand the business.
Does he do a lot of town work?
He does, yes, he's doing Enosburg and up in that area, so, yeah. So I'd like, so I'm looking for approval for, the immediate is to get this.
For the FEMA buyout, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Your motion to approve Mr. Como for the FEMA buyout,
So moved.
legal work?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Where are these properties? I know one's over here off
Foundry
Foundry.
Street, and the other 2 are down on North River, 312 and 366 North River, I believe. The 2 on North River have accepted the offer. One will not close until next year, but the first one is going to close as soon as we can get stuff going. Foundry Street has not accepted the offer yet, but you know, it's it's a tough, it's probably a tough decision for the property owner to make. I mean, they have a lot of questions, of course, but the availability of a reasonable priced property now is a little harder than it was. But I'll be checking in with them on Foundry Street.
And
later
this,
week.
the FEMA covers 100% of this, we don't have to kick in anything, is that correct?
We don't have to kick in anything, they don't have to kick in anything.
Okay.
Yeah. We just have to pay for it up front, but we're keeping, so far we've spent $800 on each one for the appraisal, so $2,400, and then keeping track of our expenses.
Hopefully the funds don't get pulled back.
That question is one of the questions that everybody is asking,
Oh, I
the
bet.
property owners.
I bet.
No, these funds, they said are
Right, FEMA,
committed, they're not pulling them back, so.
Okay.
I imagine once FEMA buys it out, there's not gonna be a lot done with the property.
Oh, we have to completely
Yeah.
destroy it.
It's done.
It'll be a
Tore
piece
down.
piece of land.
Yeah,
This
it's
land
done.
reverts back to its original state. You could, I mean, the one on Foundry Street could be mowed and kept as a park and whatnot, would be all right, but no building or anything goes on it.
Well, you can't grow grass on it.
Can grow grass.
Okay, which is good,
Yeah.
good for erosion.
Yeah.
All right. Did we vote on that?
Nope. Not yet.
Please, do, yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those favors state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. 8C is the fee proposal for the changes in zoning.
So Amy and I worked together and compiled the fees from all the neighboring towns, and what is handwritten, what she handwrote is what she is proposing, and it'll be part of when the planning commission comes back to the next meeting. I just wanted to make sure you had it first, and the planning commission have all verbally approved it.
So you don't need approval of this?
No,
right
I just
now.
wanted to share it with you so you knew ahead of time.
Very good.
So this is based on what other towns are charging?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds very reasonable.
Yes, it hasn't helped, it's been quite a few years since they've been adjusted.
I think some of them have been adjusted since like 2015.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Earl asked for an update on the Swan Pond.
Yeah, they have been working out there the last few days. I don't have anything real concrete, no pun intended on that. Other than I know that, everybody was asking, what's going on. And Neil Spears stepped forward and said he would, oversee it. Suzanne, Washburn was doing a pretty good job, but she's been very frustrated. She broke her leg earlier. She had to have that to be dealt with. You know, things are progressing slow, but it's all volunteer labor for the most part. So things should start taking shape as they're going forward.
So they replaced the pond and then there will be a new building, not with the old.
There will be a new building. I'm not sure what the design of that is. I've not seen the
They're
design.
taking up more space in
It's,
the park.
it's pretty much one of those buildings TDI has for sale,
Yeah.
common shed.
Yeah.
Basically 10 feet more to the west is what they added on. So the pond 5 feet. Anyway, 10 feet total distance to the west, new sidewalk, more fencing and better filtration and does better building as far as for them to work, but it is moving, it is slow, and
It is slow.
but I think it's got a little fire under it now,
Yeah.
especially with the car show and everything else
Yeah,
coming up in
yeah,
summer to get the
yeah.
swans out there.
And they're also cutting a fair number of trees in the park. The
Yeah, I've
village
seen them
is,
working. But that was a planned thing.
Oh, that was planned.
I saw lots of testing today.
Oh,
Is
you
that
did?
what
There were 3 or 4 people sampling wells of some sort.
They were doing
I had no
well by
idea.
the library too.
I had no idea we had,
They're in, yeah, they're little places in the park they
they
can
were,
go.
oh yeah,
go
they were
down.
pumping out,
Yeah.
they got some monitoring wells of
Yeah.
some
I
sort.
wonder what they're,
Yeah,
Yeah, they've been there for years, cause the first time I saw them a few years back, I called and asked, and I said, well, that's where they do their monitoring. is
What are they monitoring?
oh, probably for underground storage
They take
tanks.
samples and
some
stuff.
type of leakage or something that happened years
Probably
ago.
looking
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were doing it in the park.
We don't wanna
Okay.
know
Yeah.
what they feel that is.
Painting bid,
Yeah, we got a bid on the painting. I don't know who would like to open it. This is for the,
Only one
and this
bid?
was due,
one bid. That was due today.
okay,
Yeah. No one bid received.
Gilmet's Handyman Services. This bid is for 3 areas inside the town offices. I will remove everything from the walls, paint 2 coats of paint, repair the minor ceiling damage in the back conference room, front entranceway and clerk's office and kitchen will be $5,000. Boardroom, hallway, restrooms and conference room will be $6,000, so I'm assuming this is the boardroom
Yes.
and the conference room is the other one?
Yeah.
Lister's office, administrator's office, and the zone office will be 5,000. You will be providing the paint, I will provide the materials for the painting and patching. The walls will be painted with 2 coats of paint and only patching that disturbed area of the ceiling. I'll offer discount if you want to do all 3 areas of $500. Total price for labor and materials for the above is $16,000. He should fix this letter. cause it's 16,00. That's $1,600, depending where that comma goes. But I think the fact he broke down the other area at 16,000. Required deposit of 8,000, which is half, another 4,000, blah, blah, blah. So it would be 16 or it'd be 15,500 if we were to do all of it. The bid is valid for 15 days from the date above.
We budgeted for this, didn't we? Didn't we have this in the budget?
I do have money in the budget.
Yeah.
I don't know
Did
how
we
much
budget
is.
for it? It's a different
No.
question.
Technically, we didn't budget for it, and it would be, you know, it could be out of that capital improvement, or it could be out of special fund.
There is.
If we needed,
I need
if we
it
didn't
funded.
have other line items to cover it.
Thought we did 25,000 for building unit.
That's the only bid we got.
It's funny.
That's the only bid we received, yep. Did, Menard just wasn't interested at all, did you know?
No.
Sorry.
Well, he does good work, he's done good work around here.
He,
Gilman? Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, no, I just, for
Yeah,
just
he is,
comparison, having a second bid.
all the contractors are pretty busy.
No, it's fine.
Put it on my papers.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah,
We
Kathy's
budgeted
looking.
20,000.
20,000.
And our office maintenance, we budgeted 20,000.
Yeah, we haven't spent any of that presently, up to this point.
We'll look this in. We might have a little bit, because we have had some stuff to move the stuff.
Did he estimate in there how long it would take him? I'm just curious.
I don't think I saw that in there, Steve.
You have to shut down the office, eh?
Well, a neighboring town shut down their
2
office
weeks,
for 2 weeks.
paint their office.
To paint inside of the office.
Nice day with the windows open, and I don't think it'd be too bad, come work in this area, not gonna take too many days to.
He's gonna cover all the desks and all that stuff.
Gotta work out the details and then,
Yeah, you wanna know who's responsible for what,
yeah,
you know, 'cause you could have a mess.
oh, yeah.
So for the maintenance, there was 20,000 in the budget.
Yeah,
Kathy's going to.
Last year, we exceeded that because of the damage.
yeah.
And that includes like furnace and everything else, so we would eat up a big chunk of that, but we have other areas and a couple of these line items might be less. What can I move on to while we're waiting? We did, we're gonna hold off on the dump truck bid unless people wanna open that. I'd like to look at some other options first.
Okay.
We did the RFP for the truck chassis, community and economic development.
Not much there.
Any other necessary business?
I guess I could have put FEMA under community development, but nonetheless.
That's undevelopment.
Undevelopment, there we go, yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad, but I mean, it's, you
It
know, we're
is,
taking
that's
away
what it
housing.
is, yeah.
Any other necessary business? Correspondence,
Nothing.
public comment? Upcoming events.
Thursday, June 19th, 2025 is the Juneteenth holiday. Town offices and operations will be closed. Thursday, June 26th, 2025 will be a DRB meeting here at the town office at 6 p.m. Tuesday, July 1st, 2025 will be a regular select board meeting with public hearing with planning commission on zoning bylaw update here at the town offices at 6 p.m. Friday, July 4th, 2025 will be the Independence Day holiday. Town offices and operations will be closed.
Okay, thank you. Back to the painting bid, cause other than that, we go to executive session, right?
Yeah. Briefly.
$810 so far.
Oh, yeah.
$810, okay. What do you think, folks?
We have to make a motion to accept that.
Yes.
I'll make the motion, we accept the bid from James.
For all three at 15,500.
Yep, with the discount.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay. Okay, so executive session, I see legal and real estate.
Okay, I'll do it. I move that we find, that we enter executive session for the select board to receive confidential contract and personnel.
Yeah, that should have like a parentheses right there, cause this is gonna be for legal and real estate.
Okay, legal, to receive confidential legal and real estate information for which the premature disclosure of it to the general public would clearly place select board and others at a substantial disadvantage.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Right.
Opposed, so moved.
I move that based on our just findings that the premature disclosure would place the select board and others at a substantial disadvantage, we enter executive session.
Hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.